So hello and welcome to this NPTEL course entitled Trauma and Literature, where we're looking at Siddhartha Manto's short story Toba, which will hopefully finish today. So we'll just move on from where we left last time, and we talked about how the character, the protagonist in the story, Bishen Singh, he becomes mad, of course, and he develops a sixth sense about his relatives coming to visit him, and we see how those activities of relatives coming and visiting madmen in the asylum become interrupted because of the partition, because obviously it becomes unsafe for people to go on the streets for normal reasons. So we have this point on the screen where we should just continue reading, which should be on the screen. Then his relatives stopped visiting him. Formerly he could predict their arrival, but now it was as if the voice inside him had been silenced. He very much wanted to see those people who spoke to him sympathetically and brought flowers, gifts of flowers, sweets and clothing. Surely they could tell him whether Toba Singh was in Pakistan or India. After all, he was under the impression that they came from Toba Singh, where his land was. So we see how the whole idea of identity over here becomes associated with your space. He's from Toba Singh, so that's what he wants to know. I mean, his only question in this entire discursive partition is to know where Toba Singh is currently situated. And no one seems to be able to give him a satisfactory response to that, because everyone's encouraged the idea of India and Pakistan. So we have over here two grand narratives which have been formed, and those grand narratives are consuming essentially the local narrative, the immediate, the personal narrative of Toba Singh. So his association with this place becomes so extreme and so organic that he almost becomes Toba Singh, he almost becomes space, right? So his confusion over here, which is political as well as existential, is that no one seems to know where his place is, where his sense of identity is. So he is from that particular place, so essentially he is that particular place. And no one seems to know where that is. So essentially his own identity as a person, as a self, as a subject, has been interrupted by this sudden violence of partition. There was another lunatic in the madhouse who thought that he was God. One day Bishen Singh excuse me, asked him whether Toba Singh was in Pakistan or in India. Guffawing, he replied, neither, because I haven't decided where to put it. So again, we have this mimicry of godlike activities, we have this mimicry of godlike creatures over here. And the whole point is that's part of the satire package in the story, where the narrative is trying to tell us that the gods in high heavens are trying to decide where India would go, where Pakistan would go, where Toba Singh would go, and that decision is done at some level from which the common man is completely disconnected, unattached. And this disconnect and inaccessibility become a major part of the crisis of agency in the story. There is no agency, there is no free will, because you're disconnected from the decision-making bodies, and the gods over here who appear obviously as satires on gods. The whole idea of the whimsical God, the fact that the God hasn't decided what to put India or Pakistan, what to put Toba Singh, the whimsical, irrational God figure in the story is symbolic and reflective of the irrationality of the partition as such, as a political movement. Okay. So Bishen Singh begged this God to resolve this status of Toba Singh and thus end this perplexity. But God was far too busy to deal with this matter because of all the other orders that he had to give. One day Bishen Singh lost his temper and shouted again. So the whole point is, you are the God of a certain community. If you're a God of my community, you would have helped me out. And again, if you take a look at the nonsense rhetoric that or seemingly nonsense rhetoric that he's uttering all the time, it keeps talking about the monkey dal. So the monkey dal becomes a metaphor of the common man's sustenance, a metaphor of the common man's condition. And the refrain throughout the story is the monkey dal is deteriorating because the goats up there have no time to deal with the monkey dal. So the monkey dal is obviously his food, it's mung dal, but that mung dal becomes a metaphor for sustenance, for nourishment, to keep the common man going. And the fact that no one's concerned about that, the quality deteriorating every day, is obviously reflective of the condition of the common man, where this normal basic sustenance is deteriorating every day, is worsening every day, and that worsening becomes something to which the gods are completely indifferent to. Okay, a few days before the day of the exchange, one of Bishen Singh's Muslim friends came to visit from Toba Singh. This man had never visited this madhouse before. Seeing him, Bishen Singh turned abruptly and started walking away, but a guard stopped him. He's come to visit you, he's a friend Fazlin. The guard asked. Glancing at Fazluddin, Bishen Singh muttered a bit. Fazluddin advanced and took him by the elbow. I've been planning to visit you for ages, but I haven't had time till now. He said, all your relatives have gone to India. I helped him as much as I could. Your daughter Rup Kaur, and then the silence away, and this becomes obviously a very sinister silence. Your daughter Rup Kaur, and there's an ellipsis. This is something very important for us to notice. Bishen Singh seemed to remember something. Daughter Rup Kaur, he said. Fazluddin hesitated, then replied, yes, she is. She's also fine. She left with them. Right now, this becomes a very, very cryptic sentence, a very almost sinister sentence, something very dark and foreboding about the half information about the sentence. It's never clear who it is them over here, whether the daughter was abducted, her daughter was taken away by members of the community, whether she was, there was violence done to her. It's never clear. So there was a silence where Fazluddin was saying, oh, your daughter also, by the way, she went with them. And this awkwardness, this difficulty of conversation, this interrupted conversation, and its half sentences all become very important parts in this entire exchange, which obviously is suggestive of the fact that something may have happened to the daughter, something brutal may have happened to the daughter, something very, very sinister may have happened to the daughter, which is never spelled out. And this whole idea of not spelling out becomes important in Manto. The whole idea of half information or half chopped information becomes important for Manto as well. That's there throughout the discourse, throughout the stories. Bishen Singh said nothing. Fazluddin continued, they asked me to make sure you're all right. Now I hear that you're also going to India. Give my salams to brother Balbir Singh and brother Wadha Singh and the sister Imrat Kaur. Tell Balbir Singh that I'm doing fine. One of the 2 brown cows that he left has calved. The other one calved also, but it died after 6 days. And say if there's anything else I can do for them, I'm always ready, and I brought you some sweets. Now, observe the way in which this entire exchange is so local, so topical, so immediate, so organic, and so emotional in quality. It's talking about the cows in this neighborhood, the cows which have given birth to more calves, and how one of the calves have just died in 6 days' time. So all these very local narratives become important for these people, whereas everyone else is consumed with the grand narrative of India and Pakistan. Everyone is just engrossed where India is growing, where Pakistan is growing, and those become the important parameters of political importance, the important parameters to identity. Whereas for these men, all they care about, all they know about, all they want to know about is what Toba tasting is, what's happening in the village, what's happening to the cows, what's happening to the calves, how many cows have been born ever since it's gone away. So, and obviously you can see the emotional connect this Muslim person Fazluddin has with the brothers of Toba Singh or Bishen Singh. So he talks about Balbir Singh, he talks about Wadada Singh, presumably the brothers of Bishen Singh, and how Fazluddin, the Muslim, is so emotionally connected to them. He's brought them sweets, and is telling Bishen Singh that I'm happy to do anything for you, to help you in any way I can. So Bishen Singh handed the package over to the guard. Where is Toba Singh? He asks. Fazluddin was taken aback. Toba Singh, where is it? It is always, it is where it has always been. He replied, in Pakistan or in India. Bishen Singh persisted. Fazluddin became flustered. It's in India. Oh, no, Pakistan. So again, this confusion that he doesn't know where it is. So he first says it's in India, then he says it's Pakistan. Because obviously no one quite knows the geopolitical location of small villages, because no one's concerned about these things. Everyone's talking about the big cities, Islamabad, Lahore, Karachi, Amritsar, Ludhiana. So all these places become important in the discourse of partition. Whereas a small place like Toba Singh, because almost a no man's land, becomes no one quite knows where that particular terracotta is. So that particular territory becomes unimportant, that it becomes insignificant in the grand scheme of things. And then Bishen Singh, again, mutters the monkey dal refrain, talking about commenting on the worsening condition of monkey dal, and he walks away. Now, next we come to the final section of the story, where the exchange day happens, the day the exchange takes place, while the madmen are brought together. And it's very bureaucratic. They're ticked off against the identities, the religious identities, and accordingly sent across the borders. Right? So we have the Hindu madmen in Pakistan across the border, and with the Muslim madmen across the border in India, and there's an exchange program going on. So the absurdity of the whole visual narrative is important for us to understand. So imagine or visualize there's a group of madmen across the borders who are sent across the borders because of religious affiliations. Obviously, they couldn't care less about the religious affiliations. All they want to do is go back to the original locations, to the original neighborhoods, the original villages, which is obviously an unavailable option for them. And the unavailability of option, unavailability of agents, it becomes important over here, as it is throughout the story. So finally, all the preparations for the exchange were complete. The lists of all the lunatics who were to be transferred were finalized, and the date for the exchange itself was fixed. The weather was very cold. The Hindu and the Sikh lunatics from the Lahore madhouse were loaded into trucks under the police supervision. At the Wagah border post, the Pakistani and Indian officials met each other and completed the necessary formalities. Then exchange began. It continued all through the night. So again, look at the entire bureaucratization of the whole process. It becomes a cool, clinical, bureaucratic process with complete indifference towards human emotional needs, with complete indifference towards human emotional wishes or desires and nostalgia. Nothing of that is important. There were lists of paper, a list of people, and the tick against the paperwork that is there. It becomes the bureaucratic exchange, just like a cartographic division, which caused the partition and the violence ensuing it. It was not easy to unload the lunatics and send them across the border. Some of them didn't want even to leave the trucks. Those who did get out were hard to control because they started to wandering all over the place. When the guards tried to clothe the lunatics who were naked, they immediately ripped the garments off their bodies. Some cursed, some sang, and others fought. They were crying and talking, but nothing could be understood. The mad women were creating an uproar of their own and was cool enough to make your teeth chatter. So you can have this entire ruckus as a spectacle over here. The mad woman screaming, some madmen are taking the clothes, the guards are trying to tame them, but the entire anarchy over here becomes interesting because the entire anarchy, the spectacle of anarchy over here becomes a reflection of the confusion that a partition created in the minds of people. Okay, now most of the lunatics are opposed to the exchange. So again, the question of agency becomes important. Just because you're a particular religious person doesn't mean you have to be sent across the border if you don't want to. But you're wanting or not wanted becomes completely secondary over here. So most of them are opposed to the exchange. They don't want to be exchanged at all. But obviously they have no agency here, so it's decided for them, and they have to just obey what has been decided, very reluctantly, sometimes violently. They didn't understand why they should be uprooted and sent to some unknown place. So the whole question of familiarity and home becomes sort of radicalized over here, because the idea of home becomes important because their home is where they are from, but then they're not told your home is somewhere different because of your religious location. So again, we come back to the original point that the religious identity becomes the overarching identity. All of the identities, linguistic identity, gastronomic identity, cultural identity, spatial identity, they all become secondary compared to the grand narrative of religious identity. So if you're a Hindu or a Muslim, that's a deciding factor in terms of sending you across to a particular place. So they didn't want to go, although they were opposed to the movement, and they didn't know why they should be uprooted and sent to another place. Some, only half mad, started shouting, "Long live Pakistan." So again, the madmen were shouting, "Long live Pakistan." 2 or 3 brawls erupted, but in second, Muslim lunatics became enraged when they heard the slogans. So it became a very hostile environment, again, in a very cold climate. When Bishen Singh's turn came to be entered in the register, he spoke to the official in charge. "Where is Toba Singh?" he asked. "Is it in Pakistan or in India?" The official laughed. "It's in Pakistan," he replied. Hearing this, Bishen Singh leapt back and ran to where his remaining companions stood waiting. The Pakistani guards caught him and tried to bring him back to the crossing point, but refused to go. So he's just told, and obviously the person who told him that, it was mocking him. He had no idea either, presumably. He just said, "Oh, it's in Pakistan." But hearing this, Bishen Singh refused to leave Pakistan because he wants to stay where Toba Singh is. That's home for him. That's identity for him. That's religion for him, essentially. Toba Singh is here. He cried. Then he started raving at top volume. Upar de Gurgu, the annex to be Dihana, Monkey Dal, Toba Singh, and Pakistan. So again, the Monkey Dal question comes back. That's for sustenance. That's his metaphor for sustenance and nourishment. And he wants to know. He's found out. He's realized. He's been told, and he's convinced now that Toba Singh is in Pakistan. The officials tried to convince him, but Toba Tek Singh was now in India. If by some chance it wasn't there, they would send it there directly, they said, but he wouldn't listen. So obviously it's a false promise made to him. The officials are telling him, just get rid of him. Oh, it's in India, don't worry about it. If it's not in India, we'll send it to India, as if they have the agency, as if they have the power and authority to do it. But he wouldn't listen to them anymore. He's completely convinced now that it's in Pakistan and they're just trying to uproot him from where he is. And he wouldn't want to be uprooted, he wouldn't want to be dislocated from his identity. Because Toba Tek Singh is his identity, essentially. Because he was harmless, the guards let him stand right where he was while they got on with the work. So again, the bureaucratization of the process becomes important, becomes a mindless machine carrying on executing a particular work, which is pre-programmed to do. He was quiet all night, but just before sunrise, he screamed. Officials came running from all sides. After 15 years on his feet, he was lying face down on the ground. India was on one side, behind a barbed wire fence. Pakistan was on the other side, behind another fence. Toba Tek Singh lay in the middle, on a piece of land that had no name. So that's where the story ends. So again, if you take a look at the spatial location with which the story ends, it's very symbolic. It's between India and Pakistan. It literally becomes no man's land. And he becomes a no man's land. He morphs into the space, as it were. And his morphing into space becomes important because that's the only identity he can claim. So his last act of dying, his last act of standing in the no man's land and dying becomes the last act of ownership, the last act of reclamation, as it were, the last act of agency, where he's just saying, I'm going to own this land, and he owns Toba Tek Singh. He becomes Toba Tek Singh. So Toba Tek Singh ends up as space, the space with no name, the space with no face, the space with no classification, and in the process, he morphs into an identity that is desired for. So again, we can find how the story ends over here. So trauma or madness over here becomes, interestingly, an act of agency, becomes an instrument of agency, because that's only through trauma and madness can you reclaim that space, because you belong to that order of space, you belong to the order of space in your mind, and refuse to move on. And if you look at trauma as a condition which doesn't allow you to move on, in this particular story, trauma becomes an act of agency because you refuse to move on. You don't want to move on because you've been forced to move on to a territory that you don't want to go. You've been forced to move on to a time and space, or a space-time that you don't want to go into. So a new national history is about to begin. A new national territory is about to happen, and you don't want to be part of it. You want to go back in time. You want to retain yourself in time. You want to situate yourself in time and fix yourself in time. And that fixation in time, the fixation space, which is sometimes seen as an example of a traumatic situation where you get transfixed into a particular space and time, and you're not really moving in time and space, that over here becomes, interestingly, as I mentioned, an instrument of agency. So one of the things which we'll do in this particular course is to look at trauma from different perspectives, not just medicalize it, not just politicize it, but also look at the way in which trauma can sometimes be an instrument, can sometimes be used as a performative category, as a cognitive category, as a spatial category, as an agentic category. And Toba Tek Singh obviously combines all those categories, and in the process becomes a very complex and profoundly political short story. It's about the biopolitics of identity formation, it's about the fetish of identity formation, and it's also about the claiming of identity, the ownership on identity through a performative process. So the last bit is interesting, when he lies on the ground between India and Pakistan. That becomes obviously a no man's land, literally a no man's land. And also that no space, as it were, becomes a space of oblivion. So he doesn't want to be remembered, re-remembered into any of those two spaces. So he chooses oblivion, or the no man's land, or the space between two memories, or the no man's land between two memories. So we have a very interesting relationship here between space and time and mind. So Toba Tek Singh becomes a state of mind, Toba Tek Singh becomes a state of memory, and that claiming of memory, which will then vanish subsequently, is important over here, because his refusal to mix into the grand narrative is this reclamation of an agency, reclamation of an identity. So the final bit in the story is about reclaiming a particular identity. It's about his wanting to be a particular space which is not allowed to him. So he becomes a space instead. So it almost becomes performative. His suicide or his death, his slow death, obviously in the end, becomes an act of agency, or becomes an act of asserting agency, which is otherwise unavailable to him. So this story obviously is very complicated, very complex. It's about madness, it's about asylum, it's about different kinds of symbolic spaces. So you can look at the Lahore asylum as a particular symbolic space where subversion can be played out, sometimes spectacularly, sometimes funnily. but also with a degree of carnivalesque, which inverts the hierarchy, and the constant illusions, gods, indifferent gods, carnivalesque gods, whimsical gods become important in this particular story. So this is the first story of this particular course, Trauma and Literature. I hope you found something interesting out of it. We'll obviously continue conversing about the story, and we'll continue to allude and refer to the story in the subsequent lectures also. But with this particular lecture, we formally end Toba Tek Singh by Salah Hassan Manto. We'll move on to a new text from the next lectures. Thank you for your attention.